Hi there, everyone. Paul here. Thank you for coming out to my presentation regarding female incumbency and empowerment. Just a little side note, I am under the weather, so I apologize for any excessive coughing, sneezing, wheezing, etc. To begin with, I would like to briefly go over the literature from this semester. One of the main issues at the core of the literature is the underrepresentation of women in global politics. Research findings reported that women who had similar educational and professional credentials as to that of their male counterparts had a far smaller chance of being elected into political office. Women are often overlooked or disregarded as potential candidates for political positions, as the industry is driven by patriarchal values. A classic example of this would have been the most recent US presidential election. Despite having an extensive background in politics, a strong policy agenda, and flawless remarks in all three presidential debates, Hillary Clinton lost to Donald Trump, an undoubtedly far less qualified candidate. In an effort to level the playing field, many countries throughout the world have instilled affirmative action policies within their governments. So these essentially require a certain number or percentage of the respective country's political cabinet to consist of a certain number or percentage of women. The research further indicates that incumbency has the capacity to catalyze a paradigm shift in our perceptions about women in politics. Incumbency has also been proven to decrease gender bias and increase the perception of females as strong and valid candidates suited for any political position. The gap in the literature left me wanting to understand more about the effects that female incumbency and overall electoral success would have on women in the United States. Specifically, like, would women feel more empowered to vie for a political position if there were more women in office? In order to research this question, I formulated the following hypothesis, which states election of a female candidate to a political position during election Y results into the increment in the proportion or number of women vying for political positions during election Y plus 1. So when it comes to the methodology of the study, um, we will conduct a quantitative study. So a quasi-experimental design will be utilized to help establish the causal relationships between the independent and the dependent variables of the hypothesis, thus allowing us to obtain the research information needed to fill the knowledge gap. The data for the current investigation will be collected by distributing self-administered questionnaires to women from California and Arizona. The study will be selected randomly from the streets of the major cities in the two states, and the women will be required to fill out questionnaires containing demographic data and data about the hypothesis for the current study. The questionnaire will be administered in person as opposed through an email. And in total, we plan on testing about 150 participants about the objectives of the present study. The first part of the questionnaire will comprise a question on the demographics of participants, such as age and occupation, and the second part will contain questions about the hypothesis, which will contain Likert scales, requiring participants to essentially state on the scale to which degree they agree or disagree with the questions based off the hypothesis. The questionnaire will also contain a short introduction that will serve to let the participants know that the data will only be used for research purposes. So in the current study, data will be presented in tables about the percentage of participants that either strongly disagree or agree about the research objectives or hypothesis. Descriptive statistics will be used to analyze the study data, and Pearson correlation analysis will be used to detect the relationship between the study variables. This analysis method is most efficient as it will allow us to determine the correlation between the variables in the hypothesis. So the results will then be discussed and compared with the results of other previous studies to better understand just how impactful The relationship between incumbency and empowerment is on women in the political sphere. All right. Well, thank you so much for coming out to my presentation. I appreciate it. Bye bye.